Hello, this is Tony Heller from worldclimatescience.com. The Associated Press is reporting that the entire Arctic is hot except for small portions of the central and eastern Canadian Arctic and a very small portion of Siberia. And they also say that sea ice in the Arctic is about sixth lowest on record. They assert that this is happening because of the burning of fossil fuels. This is a fascinating story, but I prefer to look at the real world. Temperatures across the Arctic are about minus 30 degrees Celsius, with some parts of Siberia closer to minus 50 degrees Celsius. I'm guessing that if the Associated Press writers were actually in the Arctic without the benefit of fossil fuels to keep them warm, they would probably change their opinion very rapidly. The Associated Press says that sea ice in the Arctic is about sixth lowest on record. But it's actually 7,472nd lowest since 1979. The Associated Press was off by a factor of more than 1,000. 15 years ago today, Al Gore received his Nobel Prize for making a science fiction movie designed to scare children. At that ceremony, he predicted the Arctic would be ice-free in 7 years, or by the year 2014.
Another new study to be presented by U.S. Navy researchers later this week warns it could happen in as little as 7 years. 7 years from now. In the last few months, it has been harder and harder to misinterpret the signs that our world is spinning out of kilter.
But there's more sea ice now than there was 15 years ago when Al Gore made that prediction. Reality is that Arctic sea ice extent is pretty close to normal and that the summer minimum this year was up more than 30% from 10 years ago. This graph shows the summer minimum every year since 1979. There was a decline in sea ice which was occurring before the year 2007, but over the past 15 years that decline in sea ice has stopped. There's lots of sea ice in the Arctic right now and much of it is more than 3 meters thick. So let's take a look at the history which the press is trying to cover up. In 2008, the leading expert in Norway predicted an ice-free Arctic that year. One of Canada's leading experts, David Barber, predicted the North Pole would be ice-free during the summer of 2008. British swimmer Lewis Pugh listened to the scientists in 2008 and decided to kayak to the North Pole. He made it about 20 kilometers in his kayak before he got blocked by ice. Canada.com, November 16, 2007. The Arctic Ocean could be free of ice in the summer as soon as 2010 or 2015, something that hasn't happened for more than 1,000,000 years. The Associated Press and NASA's leading Arctic expert predicted the ice could be gone by the summer of 2012. Mark Cerise at the National Snow and Ice Data Center said the Arctic is screaming. That's the same organization in Boulder, Colorado, which said Arctic sea ice is currently the sixth lowest on record. The BBC said that the Arctic would be ice-free by the year 2013, and they said, in the end, it will just melt away quite suddenly. In 2009, Al Gore repeated his forecast of an ice-free Arctic by the year 2014. The U.S. Navy predicted the Arctic would be ice-free by 2014. NASA's James Hansen started the global warming scare before Congress in 1988, and he predicted the Arctic would be ice-free sometime between 2013 and 2018. According to the Associated Press, he was echoing work by other scientists. Congressional Democrats said, Dr. Hansen was right. We recognize him as a climate prophet. The Sierra Club took a very bold stance and said Arctic sea ice will vanish in 2013. The Guardian said the Arctic could be ice-free by 2015. Journalist Mark Hartsgaard said, say goodbye to polar bears and a whole lot of ice. The Arctic Ocean could be ice-free by 2015. We've taken a deep dive into the insanity and dishonesty of climate alarmists. Now let's look at some actual science. Around the time Stonehenge was built, the Arctic Ocean may have been periodically ice-free, and there was definitely a lot less ice. July temperatures along the northern coastline of Russia may have been 2.5 to 7 degrees Celsius warmer than they are now. Trees grew in northern Canada all the way to the edge of the Arctic Ocean, in places where the tree line is now 80 to 100 kilometers further south. Carbon dioxide levels were very low 6,000 years ago, but the Arctic was much warmer. This article from the Associated Press is designed to misinform their readers. Associated Press writers write from fossil fuel-powered, climate-controlled offices, far away from the minus 30 degrees Celsius temperatures in the Arctic. I have to wonder what sort of dissonance is required for a reader to believe that in the middle of winter, the Arctic is hot and that Arctic sea ice is sixth lowest on record. The press has been dumbing down the public for decades. But the good news is that thanks to Elon Musk, climate scam is the top trending hashtag on Twitter. It's getting harder and harder for organizations like the Associated Press to misinform the public. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on the climate scam for almost 15 years. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki, Upala, and the 4 new puppies on the web at realclimatescience.com.